Ladies and gentlemen, I am Yusril. It is the 26th of July 2014 and welcome once again to the Tribble Timewarp. We're going to start off with a handy little item that will be making its way to holodeck very shortly. Those of you who are sick of the Subspace Party amplifier, the disco ball, forcing your stolid and logical officer to dance like a mad first-year cadet, we'll be happy to hear that the Subspace Party Nullifier will be coming to holodeck very shortly. This costs 100 gold pressed latinum, goes in your inventory and renders you completely immune to the disco ball. It remains to be seen, however, whether it will have any effect upon the Rizian Duty Officer emergency power to party ability. But if you're going to be a Herbert, well, you probably shouldn't be expecting the benefits, should you? Another point that's crept in onto holodeck and also onto Tribble is that the combination of GTX 780 Ti's, the 19th of May Nvidia drivers and post-processing is having some interesting effects on the Triolic pattern enhancer's visual effect. Specifically, it's blacking out the entire sodding screen. Switching post-processing off solves the problem, but does remove some of the nicer lighting effects. I should emphasise here that this isn't really scientific testing. I just mucked around with options until I found what seemed to be causing the problem, and luckily it was a single switch. So if anyone else has had this problem on holodeck in recent weeks, then please add it into the comments, let Cryptic know, and we'll figure out if it's a driver issue, a hardware issue, or just some weird interaction between all three. Or maybe it's just me. Who knows, who knows, who knows. The core of today's episode, however, focuses on the TR116-B sniper rifle. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, this comes out of the new research and development tree, specifically ground weapons at high levels, level 15, and yes, people are already manufacturing these. Someone must have ploughed a ton of dilithium into rush jobs, because you can buy them on the exchange for between 48 and 180 million. Please take note that the expensive stuff is obviously fleet grade, or rather ultra rare as it's now being termed, and I imagine prices will collapse down as things develop. I sincerely hope prices will collapse down as things develop, because right now this rifle's performance is hilariously bad. We'll start by doing a direct numbers comparison, in this case with the Mako Mark 12 battle rifle, because let's face it, that's pretty much the nearest comparison it's got. So, base DPS, the phaser battle rifle wins marginally. Shield penetration, of course, the TR116-B has the edge. This is its selling point, that in the fact that it does kinetic damage and therefore never needs to be remodulated against the Borg. However, the Mako is a phaser weapon, so it does have the proc for that, as well as knockback on its standard shots. Then, of course, you have the exploit attacks, the sniper shots. Well, the TR116 has a slight edge, very, very slight. That is what, 5%? Give or take? Yeah, no, 4%. 212 to 204, that's 8 difference on 200, that's basically 4%. Of course, the sniper shot does have an advantage against Borg. Exposed targets take 200% damage. That's pretty much standard for all exposed and exploit weapons. Yeah. Bear in mind that we are talking about a 50 to 180 million energy credit weapon here. It might actually be easier to get hold of the Mako weapon. So, theoretically, the Mako has a slight edge once the target's shields come down. The practical, however, is even worse than the theoretical suggests. So Boulevard, as you can see here, is using a TR116. That was a secondary sniper shot. It should have done some major harm through my shields. Actually, it barely dented them and did minimal bleed-through damage. By contrast, the Mako battle rifle strips half his shields, follow-up primaries practically murder him, and, well, the only thing that stops him getting immediately vaporized is that I was a little slow. And then he sticks his head out again, and another secondary shot finishes the job. That was laughably one-sided. He got, what, 33% shield damage total? The vaunted bleed-through barely did anything. Part of the problem is that the TR116-B does kinetic damage, and most suits of armour come with fairly heavy kinetic resistances. So, we'll try something a little bit different. As you can see me typing out in the chat, we'll see how long it takes him to actually get through my defences. Bear in mind that I'm wearing the Mako Mark 12 set, so let's see what happens. 15, 14, 13, 10, here we've got 90 there for some reason. Now, how long is it taking him to kill me? Well, he started at about 2:25 on the clock. He's been beating on me for... That's what, 20 seconds to get through my shields, and then he's doing full kinetic damage. Bear in mind it took me, what, 3 seconds to get through his shields with a Mako battle rifle? And 3 minutes, 3, 4, 3, 5, 3... Yeah, basically 30 seconds sustained fire to kill, with me not using any defensive abilities whatsoever. How long did it take me to vaporize him with a Mako battle rifle, boys and girls? Yeah, PvP, not a good sign. Even with the fact that energy resistance is fairly commonplace on armor as well, kinetic damage just doesn't cut it at all. As he points out, most armors have significantly higher kinetic than energy resistance. Right, let's get on to some proper PvE, see how it does against the Borg. Proper combat logging sadly was not an option here. The combat log is getting spammed out by the various 1-damage turrets that are being used as background scenery, so we're going to have to go with floating numbers for this bit. So, against unshielded drones, the TR116, well, it doesn't embarrass itself, but then you break out again the Mako battle rifle, and it simply murders them. Bear in mind that the 116 is designed to be used against the Borg. That's kind of the point of it, as well as in environmental conditions where energy weapons won't work for whatever reason. Against the Borg, again, the Mako beats it, frankly. There's no other way to describe it. It really is hilarious. As you can see, I am significantly out-damaging him. I suspect because I'm in aim mode and he isn't, but the numbers are comparable. And it should be noted that I have no idea what causes the thing that's about to happen. Adapt, modulate, instant because of the set, and flying Borg, ladies and gentlemen. I have absolutely no clue what went on there. As Sir Boulevard's saying in the chat, unshielded targets, it at least keeps up with the Mako phaser rifle. Now let's go and have a look at Borg shielding. We need to find a few tactical drones. There are a couple up here. Okay, so plink, 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 plink. Now if I take a shot with the battle rifle secondary, you can see I've pretty much stripped half its shields in a couple of seconds, and then it does a super leap. I have no idea what was going on there. Different drone, adapt, instant because of the Mako 3 set bonus, and yep, this ends pretty much how you'd expect when two not particularly coordinated people, one of them hilariously undergunned, attempt to take on a small army of Borg. Even with the quantum duplicates, this did not end well. I pride myself, however, that we did take a fair few of them down before the inevitable happened. And just in case you thought that last battle was somehow a fluke, watch what happens now. Two tactical drones. Boulevard's hitting the one on the left. You can see the numbers. He's not really getting very far, is he? Now I'll shoot the one on the right. 4 shots, regular shots, mind you, not secondaries, collapse its shields, and another 4 kill. Adapt to that, you cybernetic zombie abomination. And then we just disintegrate the other one. simple, quick and effective, and demonstrates just how badly underperforming the 116-B is at the moment. So here's the question: how do we go about fixing it? How do we make what is after all a high-end endgame weapon competitive with something that really ought to be its peer, but at the moment is completely hammering it into the dirt? Well, there are a couple of ways we could go about this, I suppose. The first, and probably the most useful, will be to look at the interaction between kinetic damage and shields. The 116's big problem seems to be that it's having difficulty collapsing a target's shields. The Mako rifle is having no such problems and is simply brute forcing its way through them. Maybe that's some legacy interaction. Do kinetic weapons inherently struggle against shields? I'm not sure. The other possibility is to up its shield penetration. At the moment it's 20%. Melee weapons are on 80% for comparison, and I believe a baseline energy weapon is on either 5 or 10% depending on what you're using. I haven't checked that out in some considerable time. That's one possibility. The other is to switch the 116-B over to physical damage, because resistances to that tend to be far lower than they are to kinetic. Remember that the Mako armour packs 120 kinetic resist by default, compared to about 85 to 90 energy resist. As I do note, however, since most suits have high resistances to kinetic, well, it's kind of the case. I mean, we are basically wearing bulletproof body armour. Of course, the 116-B is meant to be transporting its rounds inside said body armour, so it shouldn't really be making a difference. As I say, maybe upping penetration massively, and maybe even come out with an armour penetration stat that simply ignores, say, 40–50% of all resistances full stop, might be a way to go with that one, rather than just saying shield penetration and letting it bounce off the bulletproof vests, etc, etc. However, at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, the Mako sniper rifle is hammering the 116-B into the ground so thoroughly. It's only funny if your sense of humour is that of the Night Lords. Jaeger's Sevatarian would doubtless be impressed. All I can say at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, is don't buy a 116-B until Cryptic get a handle on this, because right now it's probably better just to go and get yourself the Mako. Go and grind the rep, ladies and gentlemen. You'll save yourself a ton of time if you're grinding up the production skill the slow way, ton of dilithium if you're doing it the fast way, and let's face it, it's not like the materials are easy to get at the moment anyway compared to dilithium ore and omega marks. I have been Israel. That has been a Tribble Time Warp for the 26th of July, and until next time, farewell.